I'm live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the video. Today is day 184 or 85 of the plan, something like that. And so, with that, today I'll be reading Daniel chapters 5 through 8. And so, you join me to my journey through the Bible. Chapter 5. Look, Belshazzar Feast. King Belshazzar had a great feast, for thousands of his nobles drank wine in their presence. Under the influence of wine, Belshazzar gave orders to bring gold and silver vessels that his predecessor Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, wives, and concubines could drink from them. So they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple to the house of God in Jerusalem. And the king and his nobles, wives, and concubines drank from them. They drank the wine, praised God's gold and silver and bronze, iron, wood, and stone, and the handwriting on the wall. At that moment, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and began writing on the plaster of the king's palace next to the lampstand. As the king watched the hand that was writing, his face turned pale, and his thoughts terrified him that he soiled himself, and his knees knocked together. The king shouted to bring the mediums, chaldeans, and the diviners. He said to these wise men of Babylon, "Whoever reads the inscription and gives me his interpretation will be clothed in purple, have a gold chain around his neck, and have a third class position in the kingdom." So all the king's wise men came in, but none could read the inscription and make its interpretation known to him. Then King Belshazzar became more terrified. His eyes turned pale, and his nobles were bewildered. Because of the outcry, the kings and nobles and queen came to the banquet hall. "May the king live forever," she said. "Don't let your thoughts terrify you or your face be pale. There's a man in your kingdom who has the spirit of the holy gods in him. In the days of your predecessor, he was found to have insight, intelligence, and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods. Your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, had appointed him chief of the magicians, mediums, chaldeans, and diviners. Your own predecessor, the king, did this because Daniel, the one king named Belshazzar, was found having extraordinary spirit, knowledge, and intelligence, and the ability to interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve problems. Therefore, summon Daniel, and he will give the interpretation." Daniel before the king. Then Daniel was brought before the king. The king said to him, Are you Daniel, one of the Judean exiles that my predecessor the king brought from Judah? I've heard that you've had a spirit of the gods in you, and insight and intelligence and extraordinary wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men and mediums are brought before me to read this inscription and make its interpretation known to me. But they could not give its interpretation. However, I have heard about you that you can give interpretations to our problems. Therefore, you can read this inscription, give me interpretation to be called in purple, have a gold chain around your neck, and have a third of the highest position in the kingdom. Daniel answered the king, "You may keep your gifts and give your rewards to someone else. However, I'll read the inscription from the king and make the interpretation known to him. Your Majesty, the Most High, known to him. Your Majesty, Most High, God gave sovereignty, greatness, glory, and majesty to your predecessor Nebuchadnezzar, because of the greatness he gave him. All people, nations, and languages were terrified and fearful of him. He killed anyone he wanted and kept alive anyone he wanted. He exalted anyone he wanted and humbled anyone he wanted. But when his heart was exalted from his royal throne and his glory was taken from him, he was driven away from his people. His mind was like an animal's. He lived with the wild donkeys. He was fed grass like cattle. His body was drenched with dew from the sky, till he acknowledged that the Most High God is ruler over human kingdoms and sets anyone who wants over them. But you, his successor Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all this. Instead, you have exalted yourself against the Lord of the heavens. The vessels from the house were brought to you as you and your nobles, wives, and concubines drank wine from them. You praised the gods made of silver and gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or understand. But you do not glorify the God who holds your life breath in his hand and who controls the whole course of your life. Therefore, he sent the hand of this writing, and this writing was inscribed. The inscription's interpretation. This is the writing that was inscribed. Many, many, tekel, and parson. This interpretation of the message. Many means God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel you have weighed and balanced it and found it efficient. Perez means your kingdom has been divided and given to Medes and Persians. Then Belshazzar gave an order, and they clothed Daniel in purple, placed a gold chain around his neck, and issued a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the king of Chaldeans, was killed, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom at age of 62. Chapter 6. The plots against Daniel. Darius decided to appoint 120 satraps over the kingdom stationed throughout the realm, and over them 3 administrators, including Daniel. The satraps would be accountable to them so that they would not be defrauded. Daniel distinguished himself among the administrators and satraps because he had an extraordinary spirit, so the king planned to set him over the whole realm. The administrators and satraps therefore kept trying to find a charge against Daniel regarding the kingdom, but they could find no charge or corruption, for he was trustworthy and no negligence or corruption was found in him. Then these men said, "We would never find any charge against this Daniel unless we find something against him concerning the law of his God." So the administrators and satraps once together the king and say to him, "May King Darius live forever." All the administrators of the kingdom and perfect satraps, advisors and governors had agreed that the king should establish an ordinance and enforce an edict for 30 days. Anyone who petitions any god or man except you, the king, will be thrown into the lion's den. Therefore, your majesty established the edict and signed the document so that, as a law of the Medes and Persians, it is irrevocable and cannot be changed. So King Darius signed the edict. Daniel in the lion's den. Very famous. When Daniel learned that document had been signed, he went to his house. The window in his upstairs room opened toward Jerusalem. In 3 days, and 3 times a day, he got down on his knees, prayed, and gave thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Then these men went as a group and found Daniel petitioning and imploring his God. So they approached the king and asked him about this edict. And he signed an edict for 30 days. Any person who petitions any god or man except you, the king will be thrown into the lion's den. The king answered, "As the law of the Medes and Persians, the order stands and irrevocable." Then they replied to the king, "Daniel, one of the Judean exiles, has ignored you, the king, and the edict you signed. He prays 3 times a day." As soon as the king heard this, he was very displeased. He set his mind on rescuing Daniel and made every effort until sundown to deliver him. Then these men went together to the king and said, "You know, your majesty, that it is a law of Medes and Persians that no edict or ordinance the king establishes can be changed." So the king gave an order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. And the king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you continually serve, rescue you." A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed it with his own signet ring with the signet rings of his nobles, so that nothing in regard to Daniel could be changed. Then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No diversions were brought to him, and he could not sleep. Daniel released. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he reached the den, he cried out in anguish to Daniel, "Daniel, servant of the living God," the king said, "has your God, whom you continually serve, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Then Daniel spoke to the king, "May the king live forever. My God has sent an angel in the lion's mouth. They haven't harmed me, for I was found innocent before him, and also before you, your majesty. I have not done harm." The king was overjoyed and gave orders to take Daniel off from the den. When Daniel was brought out from the den, he was found unharmed, for he trusted in his God. The king then gave the command to those men who had maliciously accused Daniel, who were brought and thrown into the lion's den, they, their children, and their wives. They had not reached the bottom of the den before the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Darius honors God. Then King Darius wrote to those of every people, nation, language who live on the whole earth, "May your prosperity abound. I issue a decree that in all my royal dominion, people must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is a living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, and his dominion has no end. He rescues and delivers, he performs signs and wonders, in the heavens and on the earth, for he has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Chapter 7. Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts. In the first year of King Belshazzar of Babylon, Daniel had a dream with his visions in his mind as he was laying in his bed. This is a weirder one. He wrote down the dream, and here's a summary of his account. Daniel said, "In my vision at night I was watching, and suddenly 4 winds of heaven stirred up the great sea. 4 huge beasts came up from the sea, each different than the other. The first was like a lion, but had eagle's wings. I continued watching until its wings were torn off. It was lifted up from the ground, set on its feet like a man, and given a human mind. Suddenly another beast appeared, a second one that looked like a bear. It was raised up on its side, three ribs in its mouth between its teeth. It was told, "Get up, gorge yourself on flesh." After this, while I was watching, suddenly another beast appeared. It was like a leopard with four wings, bird on its back. It had four heads and was given dominion. After this, while I was watching the night visions, suddenly a fourth beast appeared, frightening and dreadful, incredibly strong, with large teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled its feet whatever was left. It was different from all the beasts before it, and had 10 horns. While I was considering the horns, suddenly another horn, a little one, came up, and among them, and three of the first horns were uprooted before it. And suddenly this horn, there were eyes like the eyes of a human, and mouth that was speaking arrogantly. The ancient days of the Son of Man. As I kept watching, thrones were set in place, and the ancient days took a seat. His clothing was white like snow, and the hair of his head was like the whitest wool. His throne was flaming fire, the wheels were blazing fire. A river of fire was flowing, coming out from his presence. Thousands upon thousands served him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was coming, and the books were opened. I watched then because of the sound of the arrogant words of the horn speaking. As I continued watching, the beast was killed and his body destroyed and given over to the burning fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion was removed, but extension of life was granted them at a certain period of time. I continued watching the night visions, and suddenly one like a son of man was coming out with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and escorted him before him. He was given dominion and glory and a kingdom so that those of every people, nation, and language should serve him. His dominion was an everlasting dominion, and that will not pass away. His kingdom is one that will not be destroyed. Interpretation of the vision. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was deeply distressed within me. The vision terrified me. I approached the one of those who were standing by me and asked him to clarify all this. So let me know the interpretation of these things. These huge beasts, four in number, are four kings who arise from the earth. But the holy ones of the Most High will receive kingdom and possess it forever. Yes, forever and ever. Then I wanted to be clear about the fourth beast, the one different from all the others, extremely terrifying with iron teeth and bronze claws, devouring and crushing and trampling its feet whatever was left. I also know about the 10 horns on its head, and about the other horn that came up before which they fall. The horn that had eyes, a mouth that spoke arrogantly, and that looked bigger than the others. As I was watching, this horn waged war over the holy ones and was prevailing over them until the ancient days arrived, and judgment was given in favor of the holy ones of the Most High. For the time had come, and the holy ones took possession of the kingdom. This is what he said: the fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom over the earth, different from all the other kingdoms. It'll devour the whole earth, trample it down, and crush it. And 10 horns are 10 kings who will rise up from this kingdom. Another king, different from the previous ones, will rise up after them, subdue 3 kings. He'll speak words against the Most High and oppress the holy ones of the Most High. He'll intend to change rebellious festivals and laws, and the holy ones will be handed over to him for a time, times and half time. But the court will convene, his dominion will be taken away from him to completely destroy forever. The kingdom, dominion, and greatness of the kingdoms under all of heaven will be given to the people, the holy ones of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and the rulers will serve and obey him. This is the end of the account. As for me, Daniel, my thoughts had terrified me greatly, and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself. Chapter 8, final chapter for today. The visions of a ram and a goat. In the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, a vision appeared to me, Daniel, after the one I saw that appeared to me earlier. I saw that vision, and as I watched, I was in the fortress of the city of Judah, in the province of Elam. I saw the vision that was beside the Elah Canal. I looked up, and there was a ram sitting beside the canal. He had 2 horns, and the horns were long, but one was longer than the other. And the longer one came up, and last I saw the ram charging the west, the north, and south. No animal could stand up against him. There was no rescue from his power, and he did whatever he wanted and became great. As I was observing, a male goat appeared, coming out from the west across the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. The goat had an conspicuous horn between his eyes. He became into a 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed him with savage fury. I saw him approaching the ram, infuriated with him. He struck the ram, breaking its 2 horns. and the ram was not strong enough to stand against him. The goat threw him to the ground and trampled him, and there was no one to rescue the ram from its power. Then the male goat acted even more arrogantly when he became powerful. The large horn was broken. 4 conspicuous horns came up in its place, pointing towards the 4 winds of the heaven. The little horn. From one of them, a little horn emerged and grew extensively towards the south, and its east head towards the beautiful land. It grew as high as the heavenly army, and made some of the armies and some of the stars fall to the earth. It trampled them. It acted arrogantly even against the prince of heaven, the army, and it revoked his regular sacrifice and overthrew the place of sanctuary. And the rebellion in his army was given up. Together with the regular sacrifice, the horn threw truth to the ground and was successful in what he did. Then I heard the Holy One speaking, and the other Holy One said to the speaker, "How long will the events of this vision last? The regular sacrifice, the rebellion that makes it desolate, and the giving over the sanctuary and the army to be trampled." He said to me, "For 2,300 evenings and mornings, the sanctuary will be restored." Interpretation of the vision. While I, Daniel, was watching the vision, trying to understand it, there stood before me someone who appeared to be a man. I heard a human voice calling from the middle of the Ulai. Gabriel explained the vision to this man. So he approached where I was standing, he came near. I was terrified and fell face down. "Son of man," he said, "understand the vision refers to the time of the end." While he was speaking to me, I fell into a deep sleep and my face to the ground. Then he touched me and made me stand up, and I said, "I'm here to tell you what's happened, the conclusion of the time of wrath. Because it refers to the appointed time at the end. The 2 horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat represents the kings of Greece, and the largest horn between its eyes represents the first king. The 4 horns that took place with the broken horn represents the kingdoms that rise from the nation, but without its power. Near the end of their kingdoms, the rebels have reached the full measure of their skin. The ruthless king, skilled and true, to come to the throne. His power will be great, but it will not be on his own. He will cause the righteous destruction and succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the powerful along with the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper. There is cunning and influence, and in his own mind he'll exalt himself. Destroy many in a time of peace. He'll even stand against the prince of princes. Yet he'll be broken, but not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and the mornings has been told is true. Now you're sealed the vision because it refers to many days in the future. I, Daniel, was overcome and lay sick for days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was greatly disturbed by the vision and could not understand it. Okay, so that is all the reading for today. I'm trying to look. I've made it past 100 pages today. I'm only 90 pages away from the New Testament. That's pretty crazy. Anyways, gotta go. So thank you guys so much for watching. I've had a great day so far. Have a great day today. You didn't